Let's go. What up, though, people? Welcome back to Wake Up Woodward. We appreciate you guys kicking off the day with the crew. We got our Woodward Pistons segment. You did such a good job kind of selling that Figer one. Can you sell the Pistons as well?
Can't nobody sell that shit right now.
That's a tough sell.
Well,
That's hard
we've
stock
got
right now.
Rod Beard and Detroit Kool-Aid to talk about it. So these are people that I enjoy hearing about the Pistons from, even if the news isn't ever good. But that's all right. That's all right. It's always a fun segment.
Hey, well, you know what? Let's get this drum roll going for the legend, Mr. Detroit News, Rod Beard. Hey, yo! Shout out and welcome back to the legend, Detroit News, Rod Beard, brother. I like the Eastern shirt, by the way. Shout out Ipsy.
Yes, sir.
Hey, you know what? We got to start things off with Rod's thoughts before we get into a little bit of just kind of a off-season overview for the Detroit Pistons.
I'm going to start with expectations again, and you look at the Phoenix Suns and where they are right now. They are fishing or they're in Cabo or wherever because the expectations were what they were. You just never know, and because we got to talk about somebody else besides the Pistons to start this joint.
Yeah.
But that's just how things are is you just don't know. Even when you put a team like that together, even these sort of big three, the idea of these throw together a big three with popsicle sticks and glue, it doesn't always work. It just doesn't. And so, I mean, maybe you see the breakup of this Phoenix team because they don't want to run it back and certain shooting guard becomes available. I mean, you never know.
You know what? You're speaking the language right now of the chat. IT Hip says Pistons need to go get Booker from Phoenix. There are no other discussions needed.
Hey, he was wearing that Iserman jersey to that playoff game, man.
He is begging to be a Detroit Piston right now.
Came to Detroit, and him and Kevin Durant were sitting in Pistons hats. I feel like we were at that game together, Rod. I feel like that was one of those we were at, and they were both sitting there with the Pistons hats on, man. Goodness gracious. That's been the pipe dream for a few years for Detroit Pistons fans, especially with Devin Booker. It's not like he's trying to hide any aspect of his feelings and his love for not just his home state of Michigan, not just Detroit the city, but also the Detroit Pistons as his team that he absolutely fell in love with, his hometown team growing up. So it'll be interesting to see what happens this offseason because we said it as well. The Pistons' best play is probably going to be through some disgruntled team looking to break things up, be able to get some cap space, which the Pistons can offer to a lot of teams out there. We saw them do this with the Knicks, who wanted to be able to go out there and get a Jalen Brunson. The Detroit Pistons said, you know what, we'll take Jalen Duren and a few of your other clunky pieces, and we'll make this thing work. Obviously, there's teams out there like the Pelicans. There's teams out there now like Phoenix who might be a little bit more disgruntled. Obviously, the Chicago Bulls. Devin Booker's the one at the top of this thing. How realistic of an opportunity do you believe it is? Obviously, the two owners, they know each other. They're from Michigan.
I think it's unrealistic, but still, I mean, why not?
Dream to dream.
Let's talk about it. Right. if you guys are going to throw PG at me and the way I was watching that game the other day when he got the loose ball kind of crossed and stepped back on that three. And I said, man, that dude that's old school PG. That just Paul George can be, if he's in a Pistons uniform, you're doing something. That dude is even he might be past his prime, but PG is still PG. And he needs a team around him. I don't know if he would come here in a kind of a rebuild, but that dude is unreal. Yeah,
that's one of those players that I'm just like, man, at least the Pistons have to do something. Just throw him the offer. Even if you think he's going to reject it, just do something that shows that your mind is thinking towards much, much, much more brighter days. To talk about this offseason, though, the Pistons, they do have up to $60 million in cap space, depending on how they handle some of their restricted free agents or the qualifying offers and whatnot with some of the players that they could bring back or not bring back. Quentin Grimes is one of those guys. James Wiseman is another one of those guys that's kind of in question as relates to I see you chucking the deuces, man. We were going to get there. We were going to get there. I was going to ask you, out of these guys with the RFAs and the qualifying offers, is Simone Fontecchio seriously the only guy that's coming back? Or that you would bring back?
So. I would say so. I can think about Grimes, but, I mean, if you're tearing this entire thing down, let's just tear it down. And you guys have been asking is there anybody untouchable besides Cade? I mean, just Who are you gonna get? Just tell me who you're gonna get.
Bro, the longer the weeks go on, the more and more I'm just like, I believe Cade literally is the only untouchable. You look at the cap space, you look at the draft capital, you look at the fact that the Pistons need to go and restock future draft capital. I think that a few of these players are on the move. But KG, no, you had your hand up, brother. What's good?
My question is more of a hypothetical. I just want to see what you would do if you were in the situation. So, for hypothetical purposes, Rod Beard has been hired as the new president of basketball operations for the Detroit Pistons. Good luck, my brother.
Let's go.
Hey. Good luck, my brother. Now, can you give us some insights as to what your first couple moves would be if you were hired as the new president of basketball ops?
I am going to I'm going to let Troy Weaver do what he does and just worry about the roster and nothing else. Nothing else. Okay. Go get talent. Tell me who your top players are, and let's go and try to get, an all-star, a straight all-star. I don't even want a fringe all-star anymore. I want an all-star. I'm going to call and see what Zach LaVine's situation is. I'll make the call for PG and Book. I'll go see what Brandon Ingram's situation is and whether he's happy there or whether we can work something out. I'm going big fish hunting. I can't do these almost free agents, these almost sort of all-stars. You can build around Cade and Fontecchio and Duren, but I want to see, hey, everything on the table. It's like a garage sale. Everything must go except for Cade. Cade is over here, but everything else must go. Make me an offer, and we'll see what we can do. But you also have to be aggressive at the people you're going after to see what's possible there. The $60 million in cap space, I'm using it all. Every single. I'm using 59,999. I'm saving literally like $10 so I can do a 10-day contract for what I mean. Just the bare minimum for a couple of 10-day contracts at the end of the year. Everything else I am spending because this is the year. If you're Troy Weaver, you feel like this year you have to show, if you're going to keep your job, you have to show that you're worthy of that. He's made some good roster decisions and talent decisions. He's also made some ones that just didn't pan out, period. And Killian Hayes is at the top of that list. If you're going to make that gamble, it has to work. And you can't have Tyrese Halliburton, who was picked after him, come and just show out and make it look even worse. You've got to have some of these things come through. Cade is going to be Cade. And this is what people have been saying, that Cade fell into his lap. But, I mean, we know the situation there is that Cade may not have been the first choice either. There were some other considerations that were there. It's the right choice, but there were some other considerations that people were thinking about in the organization too.
Yep. And I remember those reports that came out as well as we approached the draft that there might have been some other options that the Detroit Pistons were looking at, and they deliberated. Sometimes these picks, they break a little bit earlier than the Pistons did. The actual news that the Pistons were selecting Cade, it didn't really come until closer to the draft as opposed to like the day before or earlier in that day. And that was one of the questions that I wanted to be able to ask just overall is, there's from the Bobby Marks of the world to other kind of high-profile NBA insiders. Some of them are under the, impersonation or under the, the fact that they want to see this team kind of run it back with the young guys and use your cap space to kind of build and augment around them. I just feel like that is a dead on arrival type of plan because it doesn't do anything for their future, especially with Cade Cunningham this year now is eligible for the max, the 5-year, $225 million max contract. You have to start winning. You have to start building something that doesn't just win for a flash in the pan, because if you don't have anything on the other end of this, and we see this with the Lions going out there, bringing in certain capital, certain draft assets that could potentially be there in 2 to 3 years, or even in a year when they start to have to make contract decisions with some of their current starters. The only way you get the longevity in this thing is if you can restock and be able to pick up that player or two through the draft that can step in for players that you're like, you know what, we're priced out of this current player that we have on the roster. If Cade is getting that money this year, all cards need to be on the table. Like you already said, there is nothing. It's Cade, it's our cap space. You guys tell me anything else that you want. Let's make a deal work, because you got to get back to some type of respectability. I believe it was Bobby Marks who also brought up the fact that Houston Rockets were able to flip this thing in just an offseason from 22 wins to 41 wins in one offseason of bringing in Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks, Uncle Jeff Green, as well as some steps up from some of their young players. And not all the young players panned out, but they at least got them the right types of vets. the Pistons, they have to, in my opinion, sell completely out to go and get whatever. And I'm hoping that Cade Cunningham also has some say-so on what's going on right now, but that they go out there and do whatever they need to do to put the right cast of talent around Cade Cunningham. I wanted to be able to ask you about the draft as well. There's some people who believe that the Detroit Pistons should pick in this upcoming draft, and that if they're going to maintain,
I'm pick who?
From Sam Vecini to Bobby Marks, there are people who believe that the Detroit Pistons should pick in this draft, and I'm hearing Zachary Rissache from France. Now, at first it was Alex Sarr because of the defensive ability.
Hell of a name.
But they state, hey, you know what? He's going to clash. Like we've said in the past as well, he might clash with Jalen Duren. Rissache is a guy who actually is a big man, shoots a little bit better from beyond the arc, has some athleticism, and they believe that this is a guy that can pair with Jalen Duren. I already see your face. I already know what your answer is, man. I already know. This is just our off-season overview. Spend up all the money. Now we're getting to the draft part. Rod, tell me about it, man. Are you a Rissache fan?
If you're gonna give me Rissache and start me on the French, then I'm gonna answer you in French. No. No. Je ne t'aime pas Rissache. No, just no. You have too many young guys. All right. Here's how I can see it. You can go with the pick if you go get a big, huge name that you're going to use that cap space on, because you have to manage your overall cap. So if you went and got PG or you went and got Book somehow, I don't know how you do that. You put together a package of existing players and you went and got Book. You're going to use all of your cap there, and you don't have enough that you can trade that pick and get something else that works. So you may be backed into that corner where you have to use the draft pick with the slotted salary that goes with it. And I forget what it is for the number one pick, like 12, maybe 12 or 14 for the number one pick. So can you go out in free agency and get a comparable player for 12 to 14? Probably not. But can you package that pick with something else to go get another all-star caliber player in addition to the all-star player that you theoretically could get with that space? Maybe. I'm in the camp that you've got to trade for this all-star. You can't just go sign somebody in free agency. There isn't that player out there that you can go get. So if that's the plan, then you're going to have to keep the pick because you're not going to have enough assets and everything else to try to make it work. It's going to be a difficult blend to do both at the same time. But just to say Rissache and that's our solution to anything, no. I mean, that's an 8-letter in the crossword. That's about the only thing Rissache is going to solve.
Rissache, no.
I mean, it's what does it solve? What does his skill set solve for you at this point? And bringing in another rookie who's going to need time, and an international rookie who's going to need time to adjust to the U.S. game, in addition to everything else. We've been down this road. We've seen Sekou. We've seen Killian. We know that European players, when they come over, they take time, and maybe the contact and the physicality and just the speed and the difference in style is going to be a lot to adjust to. I don't want to go through that again. We've seen this movie. Let's stop it while we got a chance to.
Yeah, and ultimately, I don't think Cade Cunningham wants to go through that again either. You talk about a guy who has really come here and tried to insatiate himself and ingrain himself with the city, with the culture, with the people, and not just in Detroit, but all over the state. He's gone to different high schools and done kind of just pop-up camps, secret giveaways with merch and shoes and gear for teams and such. He's a guy that wants to bring winning back to Detroit. He's a guy that wants to be accepted here. He's a guy who already said, yeah, I'm thinking about, I'd be lying if I didn't tell y'all, I'm thinking about my next extension. And the fact that he's eligible this offseason, when you make that type of play, especially with Cade Cunningham, I don't take it the same way that Drummond did. I believe Drummond, it was about the money. Obviously, you want to be able to win, but with Cade Cunningham, I get the sense that this guy wants to win at all costs. Obviously, the max is one of those things that's just going to be a push button for him. Do you believe that's something that the Pistons should get done this season, or should they wait until next season to do something for Cade?
The number is the number. I think you get it done as soon as you can. I don't think you mess around with something that he just says, you have a horrible season somehow, and he just says, you know what, this ain't it, I'm out. And then you just have nothing.
Yeah.
You have nothing at all. So if you can sign him, you know it's going to be the max or something very, very close to it, the max minus $10, then yeah, you just go ahead and do it. If you have to do it anyway, there's no use in waiting and having something freakish happen, and then you lose him for nothing at all. You absolutely don't want that.
Yeah,
or
that's
you
what I'm at
end
as
up
well.
having to you end up having to trade him because he's just that unhappy and says he doesn't want to play here anymore. And circumstances could somehow end up that way. Don't even mess around with it. Just go ahead and get it done.
You know what? That's the word right there, Rod. Any last words, people?
I just got a real quick question, Rod, and I don't have the context. There was a super chat from one of our loyal members, Ryan's Reaction. He asked, can Rod name an NBA dynasty that ever had a pure point guard? So I think there's some conversation going on in the chat, so I don't know the context, but can you name an NBA dynasty with a pure point guard?
Was Magic Johnson not a point guard? A pure point guard?
I would say so.
Yes.
I would say so.
Yeah.
I'm with
Best
you.
ever. Yes.
Magic is easily the one that comes to mind. If you're going to say he played some center in that rookie season, and that doesn't make him a pure point guard, okay. I mean, would you say the Pistons were a dynasty with their back-to-back at the time? A team that won back-to-back was a dynasty. Who's that point guard? Zeke.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Pure point guard.
It just depends on what you call a dynasty, and people will say you won 3 or 4, or the Lakers, the Celtics, the Bulls, Golden State. If you're going to call it those, then I'm going to say, hey, then Magic was that point guard. He's a pure point guard. Some will say he's one of the best point guards ever, or the best point guard ever. I'm not going to argue that.
Gotcha. It looks like that actually was Ryan's Reaction's point. He just says that's how far back you got to go to find him. So I appreciate that context.
That's fair.
Yeah.
No, that's dope. That is dope.
This was great.
Yeah, this was
awesome.
Hey, when we talk about the outlook into the NBA offseason, especially for the Pistons, we tried to shore up everything, the free agency, the draft, and hopefully what we want out of the front office. I know that there was some noise of people saying, hey, maybe JJ Redick for a PBO. No, I'm good on that one. I'm kind of good on that one. Yeah. What's up?
Yeah, I mean, if we're just throwing names out here, I mean, just JJ Redick. Okay. Well.
Talk to a Rod.
Sure. I mean, if we're going for somebody with no front office experience, yeah, I can't. I'm just not even. So the whole point of creating the position is to get somebody who's experienced and who can take some of the stuff off of Troy Weaver's plate. That's not JJ Redick. It's not. No. That's not how that works. It's like a Danny Ainge type of person that you're trying to go and get for that. That's the whole point of creating the position. It's not just to go try somebody out and have a name in there that that you think works. No, I think that's the type of person they're looking for is a Danny Ainge type to come in and really just control all of that stuff and for Troy to run those things in. So it's not every call has to be made to Tom Gores. Every call now is just sort of going through that new person.
Dope. Thank you as always, Rod. The 2 segments have been fire as always. We appreciate you spending your time with us. Guys, make sure you go and check out the Detroit News. They do great work over there covering all of our teams as well as everything else kind of happening across the state of Michigan. But shout out to Rod Beard, the sports editor-in-chief of the Detroit News. And co-host of the Woodward Pistons podcast. Thank you as always, brother.
Thanks, Rod.
Thanks, Rod.
All right, guys.
Thanks, Rod.
Have a good week.
All right. Have a good week, man.
Legend.
He would definitely be my first draft pick as it relates to the Pistons president of basketball operations.
Absolutely.
I'm cool with
I know
that.
KG asked that question at the beginning of if you were president of basketball operations. It's like, maybe Rod would be a good fit. He knows everything about this city.
I'm telling you, he'd be my first pick. Just like Swiss Insurance Group, it was the first pick in the 2024 draft for Detroit. Woodward Sports, Detroit's top pick for your